Hey everyone, welcome back to the Off TRAQ podcast, where we debate and discuss everything golf from an amateur's point of view. As always, today's episode is brought to you by TRAQ Golf, the training system designed to help you practice like the pros. The TRAQ spray shows you exact strike patterns on turf or grass, and the blueprint helps you build structure into every session. Together, they take the guesswork out of practice so you can actually improve faster. You can learn more at traqgolf.com. That's TRAQ golf.com. And before we dive in, make sure you follow the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube, and follow at TRAQ Golf on Instagram and TikTok for highlights, drills, and all our other golf content. So today's episode is a little different. We're doing our Build a Bag challenge, where each of us picks the ultimate set within a budget for our golfer. This segment ran way longer than expected. Hopefully you guys think in a good way. So we decided to make it into a standalone episode. But also it worked out perfectly time-wise because my son decided to show up almost a week early. So while we normally record on Wednesdays, I was actually in the hospital filming golf drills instead. So go check out our socials for the drill I was doing in the delivery room while my wife was in pain. But yeah, Roy, how's it going? I feel like I haven't seen you in so long.
I know, it's weird going from talking every day to I haven't talked to you in like 2 weeks.
Yeah. I realized I forgot everything about what it's like to be a newborn dad. And so
how's the family doing?
Family's good. Julie, my wife, is good. Ezra, my son, is sleeping all day mostly. So that's good. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been really weird also because we're super cautious around our daughter. We're trying to make sure that she doesn't feel like the attention's not there. So I'm giving extra attention to her because obviously, my wife can't because she's pumping and doing all the other newborn baby stuff.
Yeah.
Definitely losing a little bit of sleep.
Just a little bit.
just a little bit. I've been running on energy drinks, but slowly getting used to it.
On that note, if there's any energy drink companies that want to sponsor us, we're both dads to very, very young children. So absolutely would take that.
We should do a energy drink review one of these days because we have a different tastes in what we're looking for, right?
Yes. And which energy drink we use when we're golfing.
Mm-hmm. Well, this week in golf, as I was in the hospital, I was so surprised that Scotty Cameron decided to join the zero torque movement. And obviously, we talked about this on the last episode. So immediately my thought was, is Roy going to go to a Scotty Cameron zero torque now?
God, I saw it and I was like, oh no. And then I looked at them and, we talked about the fact that I should go try the fastback. And then he made a zero, or Scotty Cameron's are low torque, not zero torque, but he made a low torque studio style fastback and it looks really nice. I'm not gonna lie. So I was like, ooh, do I need to go buy another Scotty? But no. I don't need another one. If I'm going to get a zero torque, I'm going to get a lab. Right? Both? Do I need both?
Did you like where the shaft was going in on the fastback? Because the Phantom goes directly into the center like a lab does.
Yep.
The fastback kind of looked like it had like this welded piece where the shaft goes into. What did you think of that?
At first, I didn't notice it when I looked at just the pictures, right? And then, obviously I kept going back to the page because I was like, oh, add to cart. Like, no, need to go for a fitting, but add to cart. And then I saw it and I don't know how I feel, to be honest. It could be really bad, or it could be like, you don't even notice it depending on how you actually set up. So I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, they look like typical Scotties. The Phantom, I think it's a little bit more rounded than the traditional Phantom, but it was interesting to me that they called it low torque. And obviously their explanation is nothing is purely zero torque. Everything torques a little bit, but it's also them trying to get around. I think there is some sort of trademark that Lab had, which is why I think Odyssey and also PXG couldn't use certain terminology for zero torque. So I don't know if they're just trying to get around that or just trying to be, Scotty and have their own marketing spin to it. But it's basically a zero torque.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's so on brand for them to like take the thing that's really popular, everybody's really loving it, and they come out and like kind of throw shade at it as they're doing it. They're like, yeah, but we're going to do it better, or we're smarter about it. Right? It's like, yeah, your most popular putter line is a direct copy off of Ping. So like you don't.
That's true. Their face milling is interesting. I actually don't know if they've been doing this before or if it's first time that they're doing this, but it's like a chain link shape. And from what I've been reading, it's very, very soft. And so I don't know if you're going to like that because you didn't like the white hots, and white hots were very soft.
Yeah. I'm curious. I am actually very curious. I do want to go try it because there was the few years that Scotty had an insert. I forgot exactly what it was, but they had an insert and there was some kind of material behind the insert. And supposedly it made it like a lot softer.
Supposedly it was 3M tape.
Yeah, right. And that's what everybody ended up saying that it was, right? I had one of those. I didn't like it. I went back to my previous putter, which is the Newport 2.5 with the curved neck, with the solid face, no insert. That one felt so much better to me. But yeah, I'm curious to see how this one plays out.
The one other thing that's different about the Scotties is that it has almost no shaft lean, whereas every other putter that is zero torque has, I think, about 3 to 5 degrees of shaft lean. Theirs is 1 degree, so it's almost no shaft lean. So it'll be interesting because that is one of the complaints that I hear a lot from people that go to zero torque is that they're not used to that shaft lean, and that kind of throws them off a little bit. So yeah, I'm really curious to test them out.
I really got to go try some of these because I like everything I know is theoretical. So like every time I'm like I don't quite understand some of the fundamentals here. And I should just go buy one. Call it research. I don't know, but I hope my wife's not listening.
Are they out in the market right now, or did they just announce?
I don't know. You can order them online. I'd have to go see.
It's pretty rare that you'll find a new release in November. Yeah, because November and December is where you start to hear like the leaks of the clubs that are trying to get confirmed, or on the list. What is that list called?
The conforming list.
The conforming list. Yeah. Yeah. So like the TaylorMade drivers were just leaked from the conforming list. So this is that time of the year. You never see a brand new release this time of the year. So
yeah, that's a good point. I wonder if they were losing so much market share that they felt like they just needed to get out sooner rather than later, and to avoid, because a lot of people do club refreshes in the off season. So maybe this is a little bit of let's get ahead of that. Let's put it out there so that we have more runway for people to try and buy these instead of just continuously losing market share to people going and trying and ordering labs or the other zero torque putters out there.
I wonder if this is also to catch the Christmas wave. And so I wonder if that might be like a trend. If this works out, maybe golf clubs are going to start coming out in November. So people buy them for the holidays.
Yeah. Even though you're not going to get a discount on it because it just came out.
Right.
Interesting. Yeah, I'd be curious. If nothing else, as soon as we know that it's in store, I might have to make a trip out there for research. I'm not going to buy any, hun. Don't worry about it.
Well, the other news that caught my attention while I was at the hospital is that Live Golf is moving to 72 holes from 54. How do you feel about that?
God, I laughed at myself because, that was one of I remember hearing that so much when Live first came out. And it was like it's fast paced. It's what the people want. And I think now is a good time to admit, I have never actually watched a full Live tournament. There's something about it. I couldn't get into it. And so when they came out with this, I was like, that's weird. Is it because they need more airtime and more sponsor spots because they need to sell more ads? Is it that there's something like anticlimactic about it being 54 holes? And so I just kind of chuckled to myself and I was like, oh, this is Live actually just turning more into a traditional golf tournament. And then promptly went on with the rest of my life. Because again, I've never watched a full tournament, so don't really know what the comparison point is. Have you watched them? Do you think going to 72 is a good idea for them?
I have watched a few tournaments, but I've probably watched as many Live tournaments as I've watched like actual tour tournaments, which is not a lot. Obviously all the majors I watch, but for the most part, well, weekends are with kids now. So it's very difficult to just sit and watch an entire tournament. I think the main reason is because they want to get on the world golf rankings. And with the majors now allowing live golfers to play as long as they have the ranking, I think that's the main reason that they want to move to 72. The other, this is speculation, but some of the live golfers have been doing pretty well. Like when you think of like Tyrrell Hatton, John Rahm, Bryson, they've done pretty well in the majors, but there also have been others that have like drastically dropped off. So I think it might also be from a lot of just guys saying that they're not tournament ready for the majors by being in live. So I feel like it's one of those two reasons. But my biggest question was the whole point of the name live is that it's Roman numeral for 54. So what are they going to do with their name now? It's not live anymore.
Oh, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
Oh,
like,
man.
What's 72 in Roman numerals?
What is that?
It's like L
X
X X I.
Lexi
Tour. It's the Lexi tour.
The Lexi tour. Oh my God. I totally forgot that that's why they named themselves Live.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. They don't even have their namesake anymore.
I think they said that they're still going to do the shotgun thing though. So even though it's 72, it'll be shotgun because their whole thing is like the entire televised tournament should, or per day, it should take like 4.5 hours instead of like 7. Right.
Right.
So yeah, they'll be doing that. And because of this, I actually didn't know this, but Live Golf allows shorts. And a couple months ago, they decided to turn that rule as well. So Live Golf is no longer wearing shorts. You have to all wear long pants.
Wait, really?
Yeah. In looking up like the 72 hole thing, I found out that they recently changed that rule as well. So I'm like, man, they're basically becoming the PGA Tour.
They're just turning back into, oh my God.
All yeah. Right, I mean, they still have like the team aspect.
Right.
They still have the shotgun time. But aside from that, it's kind of the PGA Tour now.
God, if I could roll my eyes any harder, I would. But you know what? More power to them. Any kind of promotion of golf, if you're into, hey, let's grow the game, then this is good for you. If you're not, then this might also be good because this might actually just start being the decline of the tour. Not saying it is, but you can't.
Yeah.
I don't know. You can't go back on some of like the major things that you stake your claim on and say that you're still the different cool hip thing. That's just me.
All right. Well, let's get into today's episode. Today, we're doing the Build a Bag Challenge featuring our friend Richard.
So here's how the Build a Bag Challenge works. Our golfer tells us what they want in their golf game, sets their goal, and sets a budget. Charles and I then have to go and rebuild their entire bag within that budget. We'll go category by category, show the golfer which ones we chose, and at the end, the golfer will pick the bag that they like the best. Charles and I also have a little bit of a side bet going on that the first 1 to 10 bags also gets a club of choice from the other. So let us know if you agree with the golfer's choice or if you would have chosen differently.
Well, with that, let's get right into it. This is the Build a Bag Challenge featuring Richard. Our guest today is Richard Kim. Hi, Richard.
Hey, guys.
How's it going?
Good, man. Excited to be here.
Thanks for joining us on a weekend.
For sure.
Well, Richard, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do?
I'm a director of product at, I guess, not really a startup anymore, but it's GOAT. We buy and sell sneakers, marketplace for streetwear and stuff like that. And I avidly watch a lot of YouTube golf, trying to fix my swing and just experiment. I mean, that's a joy of golf, right? Like you can never be perfect. You're always going to tweak something, see how it reacts. And yeah, been enjoying that for the past 5 years.
Nice. Well, just for our audience that might not know, what does a director of product do?
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of it is kind of figuring out how to improve the business, improve user experience, pump out features that we think buyers and sellers or just our general users will enjoy.
I had to ask because some of the viewers might be surprised by the budget that you set for us. The budget Richard set for us was $2,000, which I was like, wow, this is going to be easy because I originally expected our guests to set budgets that are like $600, $1,000 for like their entire bag. So I thought it was going to be easy, but it ended up being a little bit more challenging than I thought.
Not easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. The way I thought about that though is, I was looking at, full sets on like TaylorMade and Callaway, and they're like $1,500. And, I don't think those clubs are all that great, and figure $2,000 is probably a decent budget to have something that'll last a while that can, grow with your game, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And Richard doesn't need a bag, so we didn't have to budget for a bag. And also, Richard locked in his driver. He currently plays a TaylorMade Sim 2 Max. And so, Richard, how come you decided to lock in your driver?
So I actually bought that club maybe about a year ago, and it's been the most forgiving thing that I've ever played. Like, hit it off the toe, hit it off the heel. It's very forgiving. And so I like it when you hit it really nice. Like, it's beautiful. And even if you miss it, it's not terrible. So I really enjoy that club and didn't want to mess with it.
Can you tell us a little bit about your game? How often do you get to play?
Yeah, I think I play about once every 3 months or so. But I do try to go to the range at least once or twice a month. But even those range sessions, I don't know how much it's actually really doing for my game. But didn't actually start playing until around the pandemic, and just really kind of got a little bit more serious about it, being like, hey, I'm getting older, can't hit that jump shot anymore, so I'm just gonna, pick up a golf club, see what that can do. And it was actually pretty fun, swing that in the backyard. And since then, just, been trying to fix my swing and just figure out ways to make the game a little bit easier.
Yeah. Yeah. So we sent Richard a questionnaire where it talked about the goals that he has, the courses he plays, what his current makeup is. Roy, what was your process kind of like after you saw the questionnaire?
Yeah. So given I started the same place as you, I thought, oh, this budget is going to be easy. Let me splurge a little bit. And then I started with the irons, and I quickly realized the irons were going to be about half of my budget. So then, I actually worked my way from irons shorter. And then I went to wedges, and then I went to the putter. And then I went back to my woods. And the reason being, because Richard self-described a little bit more on the learning where his game is side, right? And could use a little bit more help with launch and carry and things like that. I wanted to find a set of irons that he could actually grow with and not over-optimize on the long clubs, especially given having played with Richard, thought, yeah, he has no problems moving it, right? So it's not necessarily that we're looking for more distance in the bag. It's more, hey, let's just get consistent flight throughout everything else. Let's get a decent putter, and then we can go back and with whatever remaining budget I have, let me find the best fit woods. That said, I had more money left over than I thought I would, and actually put in what I think are a very good yet unconventional wood setup that we'll get into. But that was kind of the way that I worked through.
Interesting.
What was your strategy?
So I also started with the irons. Maybe it was a little bit of a cheat code for me because I actually rode with Richard when we played, whereas you walked. And so I got to see Richard's game front and center. I definitely wanted to start with the irons, but I actually went up instead of going down. I wanted to do the gapping for Richard because Richard felt comfortable hitting up to his 6-iron. And so I wanted to make sure that the gapping between the 6-iron and his drivers were pretty solid. And then I went to, the putter I already had picked out. And so it was basically just finding the wedges. But for me, my irons were not expensive. And so what was very expensive for me was all the woods and the hybrids that I had to incorporate really started to add up. And for me, I felt like the hybrids and the woods had to be very forgiving and very fitting of Richard's game. And so I spent a good chunk of money just on like 4 clubs.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very different. It's funny how we both started with the irons, but then just completely went in different directions after that.
Well, I'm really curious to see what you pick. So should we get this started?
Yeah, let's get after it.
Okay, sounds good. So Richard, for irons, I chose for you the Srixon ZX5 MK2s. The reason why I chose these clubs is threefold. Number one, it's a forged head, whereas your current one is not forged, it's cast. And so you talked about you wanting a better feel. And so I definitely wanted to get you forged irons. The other thing that I really like about these clubs is the V-sole. So the sole of these clubs are not flat. There's actually a little V to it. And I find that shape really helps in the SoCal Muni type of environments that we play in. And I found this setup at Golf WRX. They are a used set. They're $600. So they were a lot cheaper than I expected. And these actually come with the steel fiber graphite shaft. This particular club that I found, I would say it's an 8.5 out of 10 condition. There's a little bit of chatter on the soles and a little bit on the face, but overall, the club face is very, very clean. It's a 6 to approach wedge setup, and shipping is included. No sales tax because you are buying from another person.
Nice. I did have a question about, so before I got my Mizunos, I was doing a lot of research on forged and cast. And a lot of things that I hear about forged is it wears down faster. Given that like I play very infrequently, I'm guessing that doesn't really mean much for a player like me.
No. And in terms of the build of the club, unless you are playing blades that are made out of the softest steel possible, it really will last you a really long time. Yeah. The only thing that I do notice between a forged iron and a cast iron is that in the frequency you play, maybe every like 2 years, you should go get your lie and your loft checked, because if you lean on your clubs a lot, they will bend a little bit. But other than that, from a durability standpoint, I wouldn't say that that should be any cause for concern for going to a forged steel.
All right.
Roy, what'd you pick?
Surprise, surprise. The traditionalist went with Titleist irons. So I picked the Titleist 2021 T300s, which they market them as their ultimate game improvement iron. But ever since they switched over from the AP line to the T line, I've been a huge fan, because it really does have something for pretty much everyone, no matter what stage of their game they're in. The reason I went with the T300s is because they're a really good balance of still having that more traditional look. You know, as you get into the game improvement category, they tend to be a little bit bulkier and bigger. And you know, these aren't exempt from that, but they try to look a little bit more like players' irons. And, you know, for me, and how you feel standing over your irons, you know, kind of a big deal. You kind of have to think it's pretty. This set is a 5-through gap, but it also has an approach. And so that's a 48 and a 52, I believe, that are included in this set of 8. And it starts from a 5. So I know right now the longest you carry is a 6. The reason I put in a 5 is because I think with these, maybe not immediately, but I think you can get to a point where you'll be more comfortable with the 5. Right? They're a lower center of gravity. They're designed for mishits as much as the game improvement irons are, but they're really designed for a higher launching long distance flight. So they have stronger lofts than the quote unquote traditional lofts, but you're not really sacrificing a lot of distance or carry for it. There's some scratches and chatter on these. These are real images that I found on Second Swing, and so it's rated an 8 out of 10. And then on the flip side, I found ones that have the KBS Tour C-taper shafts. So they are steel shafts. KBS is a little bit of a higher launching shaft, but their C-tapers are a little bit more penetrating, right? So it's a little flatter than the conventional KBS, right? So it's a little bit of an offset. So I think with these, you really do get a little bit more distance out of your irons. You get a little bit more forgiveness than what you're playing, but you're not really sacrificing a lot of that traditional look to what the irons can do for you.
I will point out that my irons are 2023 models, and these are 2021.
Oh, so you got me by 2 years.
Yes. And in some companies, that's 2 model cycles.
That's true. Although I've heard the conventional wisdom is that the incrementality of golf club technology change, you really should not look for change less than 5-year differences, right? So like if you have a 2020 club, then the next time something meaningful for you will be out there will be 2025.
Yeah. And it was a half joke, because also for irons, I would argue that that's a wider gap. Like you're not going to see a huge jump from 21 to 23. But I just wanted to let you know, Richard, that mine are newer.
The 823 and 11 cents is inclusive of tax for where you live, Richard, but shipping was free because I got it from secondswing.com.
Nice.
So if anybody from Second Swing is out there, we would love to talk about a sponsorship and maybe actually getting some people over your way for some used clubs.
Yeah.
And how much life do these irons have? Like legitimately, I can play these for the next 10 years. So 20, 36, 35.
I don't think you should play any clubs for 10 years, but if you're really only playing every 3 months, then yes, absolutely. These can last you the rest of your life. As will Charles's, right? If you end up playing a little bit more and your game changes, you're probably going to want to get out of these in a few years.
That is where I would disagree. I think the T300s, I could see you moving on from if you become, a lower handicap golfer. If you, start to flirt with singles, I can see you not wanting to play T300s. The ZX5s, I could still see people in their single handicaps playing it. So it's kind of that in between. It's not fully a player's cavity, but it's not a game, like a super game improvement. Well, I wouldn't say T300 is a super game improvement, but it's not quite in that category either. So the ZX5s would be a more difficult club to play than the T300s. But if you decide to, you can play that up until you're like a scratch golfer.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, the T300s are for Richard where I think your game is now. When you improve, to Charles's point, you're going to want to get out of these because you're probably going to find you want a little bit more control or shot shaping and things like that. And it's not that you can't do that with the T300s. It's just they're geared to make it a little bit straighter and further, right? So it just takes a little bit of that out of your hands. But yeah, I think with the Strixons, you're going to get a little bit more of that for longer, but you're just going to suffer for a little bit until you get to that point on the beginning end.
Gotcha. Yeah, cool. Good to know.
Okay, so for wedges, I found TaylorMade MG3s, and these are also used from Golf WRX, and they came in a set of 3 for $245. These included a 50 degree, a 54 degree, and a 58 degree. Now, the 50 degree, I don't think you're going to use in my current setup. So you're kind of getting a spare club. If you don't like the gap wedge in your set, though, in the Strixons, you can bend these 50 degree to like a 48 degree and use them instead of your gap wedge. This set is used, but the grooves looked really fresh to me. And you're going to see a little bit of what they call patina. It's basically rust on the club face, and that's by design. These MG3 wedges are made to rust with a little bit of moisture, and some golfers will actually just leave it out so it completely rusts. No matter what their marketing says, I don't think it has any effect on the actual spin. So this was a bit of a risk on me because if you don't like patina, then you might hate these wedges. But for the price and for what you got, I just thought it was a good value. And, to be honest with wedges, there's not going to be a whole lot of technology. That's why there is no technology slide. It's just, here are the wedges, here's the price, here's what it is. And I would say these are for wedges, about 8 to 8.5 out of 10 condition.
Got it. So one thing I know in the questionnaire, you kind of asked about my wedges and how I play. I've responded, I've had a 58 for the last 8 years. That's the only wedge I've used. And it's the only wedge in my bag. And it kind of acts as everything. And so knowing that and knowing that, there's 50, 54, and 58, like what really is the difference? What am I gaining from adding more wedges to my bag?
For me, it was a lot about gapping from your irons on. So your approach wedge in the Strixons is 48 degrees. With the fact that you're hitting your 7-iron 150, I think the gap wedge would get you around 100 yards. How far do you hit your 58 right now?
It can go from 10 feet to, like probably close to 40, 50 yards, consistently. Yeah.
Okay. When you get a little bit better, I think your lob wedge, your 58, should get you around 60 to 70 yards. So for me, I was looking for a club that was in between 60 and 70 yards and 100 yards because it gets a little bit difficult. And the only reason for having more wedges is for gapping purposes, from my philosophy. So I was looking for a club that will get you that 80 to 85 yards. And that's why I added a 54 degree wedge so that you don't have to manipulate your gap wedge to try to hit that yardage. There is a stock club where you have your stock swing and it should get you about 80 yards. Also, the other reason for having additional wedges is depending on your chipping philosophy. My chipping philosophy is that you have one swing and ideally you're not manipulating with the loft too much. And so by doing one stock chip, you know how far something should go and how far it will roll. Having multiple wedges allows me to gauge that.
Interesting. Because I've been doing the opposite, right? I have one wedge and I just try to control my swing as much as possible to hit that yardage. But
that is, I think, maybe Roy will agree with that method, but that is the more traditional way. A lot of traditional golfers felt that you only need one wedge and you need to learn 6 different shots with that one wedge to hit your distances. My philosophy is just, if you have the ability to carry more clubs, then it's a boost for you rather than having to learn extra swings.
Yeah. And when I first started playing, the convention was that you carried 3 wedges, and often the longest one was your sand. Most people did not carry a lob wedge. And so it was a big deal when people would start carrying 4 wedges. And now that's conventional. Now everybody carries 4 wedges, and kind of leaning a little bit more into Charles's school of thought. But when I learned, it was you take your sand wedge and you try to figure out how to hit every single shot with that one wedge. You open it, you close it, you move the ball around in your stance, and you do a lot of different things. I think there's still a lot of value in learning that. But in terms of, and I mean, no disrespect by this, but with the frequency that you play, I don't think you're going to be able to groove those very quickly. So I do think for your game, it's a little bit more about, can I repeat the same one swing across different clubs and get different results from it?
Makes sense.
And with that, I actually stuck with that philosophy. But because, well, it's weird. I've always treated an approach wedge and a gap wedge as the same thing. So we'll call it.
I was actually going to ask you about that set, because for me too, like the approach wedge and a gap wedge is the same thing. So I was actually wondering, why does it have an approach wedge and a gap? Like, what does it do differently for Titleist?
Well, because for the 300s, the lofts are a little jacked. So your traditional pitch would probably be more somewhere in the 46 degrees. And I think their pitch was 44 degrees. So then for proper gapping, that set had a 48 and a 52. So what I would add is a 56 and a 60. So I'm getting you also to that 4 wedge setup, but doing it by just sticking with the family and going with the Vokies, which I love. The SM10s have had amazing reviews, and not every year with Vokies is a hit, but the SM10s have been really good. And so these are both chromes, so you're not going to have a lot of that patina. And I found 2 that were 9s out of 10s, so barely used. 56 with 10 degrees of bounce, which is pretty conventional, and a 60 with 6 degrees of bounce, which is a little low, right? And so I had options between 6 degrees and I think it was 12 degrees. But because of the courses that you play, especially in the greater Los Angeles area, tend to be a little bit more baked, a little bit harder. I wanted to keep you in a little bit of a lower bounce so that you weren't skipping off of the ground. But yeah, so now we get you into that 4 wedge setup. The 56 is the very traditional sand wedge. That is still your utility club, so to speak, but now you have the ability to move up and down between 4 different wedges.
Nice. How big of a difference does bounce make? Because I see there's you can go from 8 to 14, and there's also different grooves. As a 20 plus handicapper, does any of that matter?
In theory, and Charles, I know you probably have a lot of opinions about this one too, but I think there's a point right around where you are, where you actually start to learn to use the bounce. Any worse, and I would say most people are not using the bounce correctly.
Yeah, I picked 2 wedges that have the exact same bounce, and it's going to be on the higher end, and they're 11-degree bounces. And wedges are something that you will probably change first out of both our bags as you get better, and they also wear out a lot faster than the others. I see a lot of people with lower bounces digging their wedges into the ground. And so the higher bounce for me was to make sure that you don't dig your clubs on fat shots. And we're not perfect. So there's going to be some shots where we hit a little behind the ball, and the bounce just helps glide it or skim it a little bit more than a lower bounce would. Also, in the type of bunkers that we don't play in pristine sandy bunkers. And so in those types of bunkers, you do need some bounce so that it will glide on the sand a little bit more. But yeah, generally speaking, I do agree with Roy. As your handicap gets lower, as you play more, as you want to experiment more, the bounce might change in the future, and the sole design might change as well, especially if you start to manipulate and open your club face. But for now, my assumption was that you won't be doing too much of that. So let's try to find wedges that are, I guess, the easiest for you to play.
Yeah, I mean, the last time we played, I think I found every bunker in the round. So yeah. whatever can help me get out of the beach, the easiest. That's what I need.
Hey, but your short game though was really good. I feel like your short game was the best part of your game when we played.
I mean, that also says that I've had to play that short game a lot, like out of the bunker and so I've got a lot of practice there.
But there were some shots where I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he hit from under the tree, went through all the branches, and then landed like 4 feet from the hole.
I don't know if that's a good thing though.
All right, we're jumping onto the putter. Earlier in this episode, we talked about which putter is best. And I basically mentioned, Richard, that for any new golfer or amateur golfer, I'm going to immediately recommend a zero torque putter. And so I found for you a Lab Oz 1i. The I stands for the insert. So most lab putters are just one aluminum frame, but with this model, they just started adding a metal insert to give you a little bit of a better roll and better feel. So this is the model. It is still center shafted. Also, I felt like you would appreciate the design a little bit more than some of the other lab designs. They are a lot more bulbous and look like spaceships. So this is one of their newer putters, and this is the one I found for you. I found a used set on Facebook for $350. This one does have some normal kind of wear on the sole. And the thing with labs is it's very easy to kind of get the paint to chip off because they're all aluminum bodies. So you will see some minor cosmetic blemishes around the face, but you won't see any of that from the crown itself. The main thing with the lab is I think they're the easiest putters for you to keep the club face consistent and square to the target. And the putter is your scoring club, right? When I play some of my best golf, it's when I putt the best. So I wanted to recommend a lab putter for you.
So I know that like most golf club manufacturers are now doing the zero torque. What made you pick this one over Callaway's, the TaylorMade's, the everything's, right?
Number one, price. The club that I thought you would enjoy is actually the TaylorMade Spider Zero Torques. But those are so new that they're going to be $500 used, like $650 brand new. Odyssey is actually coming out with a new line, but they're not out yet. So I couldn't pick any putters from that line. And the one zero torque putter that Odyssey has is super ugly. And so out of what was available, out of the budget, this just happened to be the one that kind of fit. But you're absolutely right. There are so many other options out there now, and I think that's great. And so it's all about just finding the look that you like.
And then for me, I went with Ping Shea. I'm gonna admit I don't know a lot about this club, but it kind of did exactly what I was looking for in terms of how I wanted to put you into a putter. Because right now you're playing a blade, and you do have a little bit of a straight back and forth. I wanted to get you into a mid mallet, just because it does tend to be a little bit of an interim between the blade that you're used to and going to a full mallet, even though you do have a little bit more of a straight back and forth stroke, and that is conducive to a mallet. I didn't want to jump very aggressively because for me, that was a big jump going from a blade to a mallet, and I couldn't do it. So I wanted to keep you something in a little bit more of a streamlined, smaller head while still taking advantage of some of the weighting of the mallet. I'm not going to lie, the big driver here is the cost. The only downside for this one is there's no putter head cover. But given how you use baby shoes right now, I figured maybe you have another set laying around and you'd be able to whip one up for yourself.
Nice.
I don't think you can use baby shoes for a mid mallet. You might need toddler shoes, Richard.
Oh, yes. You might need to move to the slightly older kids' shoes, but you can make it work.
Yeah, that's funny. Did have a question. So, when you set the questionnaire, I had no idea that there's different like putting strokes. Like there's the straight, the arc, slight arc. I thought everyone just putts just straight back and forth. And, to be honest, I chose the putter that I use right now purely just for style. Like it's a Nike Method Core, found it on a garage sale. Really nice, really cool. But I mean, had no idea. It's like, oh yeah, you shouldn't be using that if you have a stroke that's pretty straight. So knowing that, like, why are people putting with an arc? That seems so like counterintuitive that you would want to hit it not straight.
Because that's the way the game is intended to be played, Richard. And the traditionalists want to keep playing the game that way.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we so the first segment of our podcast was actually which putter style is the best. and we touch up on this. There are, depending on what your style of putting is, some people are very arm heavy. Some people like to use like their bigger muscles, like their shoulders. And so depending on what you find more comfortable, it actually sometimes might be better and more natural for you to put an arc into your stroke and not go straight back and forth. And also before the face balanced putters, because no other putter stayed balanced the entire time, it was kind of, you let the putter do its thing and they were engineered to stay in that arc. And so that was kind of some of the other philosophies why there is a slight arc and a full arc stroke in putting.
Yeah. There's just too much to go. Like there's so many things to tinker with. It's insane. Yeah. Like it's a lifelong sport.
Yeah.
Truly is.
That's why it's so fun though.
Yeah. No, honestly.
All right. Let's go up to the woods.
If you don't mind, do you have hybrids in your lineup?
I do not.
Okay. Can we start with the hybrids for me?
Okay. Can you actually do an explanation of your whole long club strategy and then we can start with the hybrid?
Yeah. So Richard, because you said that you don't feel comfortable hitting anything longer than a 6-iron, I decided to include hybrids into your bags. And plus you have hybrids right now. So what I decided to do was add a 4 and a 5 hybrid into your bag. I chose the Ping G430 hybrids. And the reason why I picked this is because in your questionnaire, you said one of your biggest issues is inconsistent contact. And they call it spinsistency, but it's basically a phase technology that keeps spin and distance stable no matter where you're hitting it on the club face, whether you're missing it low, missing it high. They've engineered it in a way where the spin and the distance stay relatively similar rather than other hybrids where you can get varying amounts of distance. These particular hybrids also are one of the most forgiving hybrid tests when they do it on My Golf Spy. Another reason for this is that these are one of the few hybrids where you're able to adjust the hosel for loft. So for me, the biggest thing in putting together your bag was gapping, making sure that you have clubs that progressively get longer, but still easier to hit. And because I didn't know exactly which lofts would be perfect for you to hit that gap, these hybrids were really, really valuable because it allows you to fine tune those lofts and gives you that ability to get the gapping that you need.
Nice. I'm assuming that as someone's game improves, hybrids are probably unnecessary and you should just be using irons. Is that right? Or no?
I would say that it really depends on your swing speed. I know a lot of scratch golfers that have 2-3 hybrids in their bag. And so for me, the importance is whatever allows you to hit your distances and hit them consistently. I don't care what clubs you're using, as long as it's comfortable for you. In your swing speed, it's going to be very hard to hit irons the same distance that you're able to hit these hybrids. And from a distance standpoint, I was looking at around that 180 to 190 distance. I think it'll be hard to get irons to go that far consistently, which is why I chose the hybrids. And both of these are used. This is actually why I was like struggling, because these hybrids got expensive really, really fast. One is $230, the other one is $250. And these I found both on eBay. I didn't want your hybrids to change from one to the other from a look perspective, because that makes it, for me, very difficult to adjust when you have two hybrids and they look completely different. So the other challenge was finding a model that I liked, a price that I liked, but also one that had a both 4 and a 5 hybrid. Roy, do you have any thoughts on hybrids? This was a bit of a challenge, and I needed to do a lot of research because Roy and I both don't hit hybrids. So I had to do a lot of research to get up to speed on the technology that they have today and why it would fit for your bag.
You guys don't carry hybrids because you guys can get the distance with your irons.
No, I've carried out hybrids before. And this is when I was younger and had a faster swing speed. I don't like hybrids because I don't know how to hit them well. Like I have a 2 utility semi hybrid. But I used to have a 3 hybrid. I've had a 4 hybrid. If I was playing somewhere that had more punishing rough, I would consider putting a hybrid back in my bag for the longer clubs. They allowed you to hit out of deep rough or trouble, get the ball up in a way that a long iron and both a wood would not let you do, right? So it was that in between, it's easier to launch, easier to hit, especially when you're in a little bit of trouble. And then people started realizing, well, why do I have to be in trouble to use this? Like, this is just easier to hit even on the fairway. And so they became a little bit more mainstream. I wouldn't consider it now because none of the courses that we play out here have anything that I would call remotely close to punishing rough. But if we were in Florida or the Northeast or even the Midwest where it's like really thick, heavy rough, I might consider I probably would consider subbing out my 4-iron because I don't know that that's something that I would want versus putting in maybe like a 6 or 7 hybrid in whatever the equivalent gap and distance would be. Okay, going on to the woods.
So for woods, I kind of did a similar thing where I wanted to make sure that you're hitting your gapping, but you also have 2 woods that look the same. And I chose for you a 7 wood as well as a 3 wood. And the reason for that was also just gapping purposes. I anticipate your 7 wood to get you about 200 to 205 yards. And then my goal was that the 3 wood would be fit to get you about 250 to 220. And so if you're hitting your driver 250, I felt like that was a good gapping. And so instead of getting a 5 wood, I also chose a 7 wood because they are a little bit easier to launch and hit. The Mavericks came out. These are about 5-year-old. This is probably the most worn out club in your bag. And I will be honest with you, Richard, the 3 wood is what I selected last. And so this was a bit of a budget play. I was like, I have $93 to spend. So I want to make sure he gets the same wood, but I don't have a lot of money to spend. So to stay under budget, I chose this one. I would say it's about 6.75 out of 10. It has a little bit of wear on both the sole as well as the face, but the crown was okay. And one of the big things for me is at address, how does a club look? Because your face and the sole, you'll never really see at address, but I wanted to make sure that the crown is still relatively clean. And then if you jump to the 7 wood, this is also another club that I spent a lot of money on because it's very hard to find 7 woods. So I ended up spending like $230 on this club. Key thing for me was I wanted your 3 wood and your 7 wood to match. And when we played, I feel like you used your 7 wood a handful of times. And so I also wanted to focus on your 7 wood being a slightly higher quality.
Question about like condition of clubs, like especially the woods, outside of it being cracked, like can't you just use that thing till you die? I feel like it's one of those things that like you really don't need to replace it, especially if you're comfortable with it, like ever. Because I mean, it should, like, you rarely use, especially a driver, right? You're using that thing like what 10 times around. Outside of it being broken, like because you slammed it against a tree because you're frustrated, it feels like it is something that you don't really need to replace. Same with these like woods.
Yeah, I would agree with that. My 3 wood and 5 wood, I'll maybe hit 2-3 times around, both of them combined, not individually. And so I've used the same 3 wood and 5 wood since 2019, and I don't plan on changing it. I did want to upgrade though from your arrow burners because your arrow burners are now getting to be about 10 years old. And these I feel have a lot better weighting to give you forgiveness. And they've also been created to be more stable than the arrow burners. And so that's why I did want to upgrade your 3 wood and your 7 wood.
Agreed. And interestingly, I followed a lot of the same core philosophy that Charles had, in that I'm putting you in 2 different woods that are the same. So I went for the pink G440 Max, which is a little bit newer. Max is like their max forgiveness, easier to hit line. But I mentioned I went a little unconventional. So I actually spent a lot of money on these just because I was a little bit more efficient on the wedges and the putter. But I went 5 and 7 wood. Same beginning logic as Charles, right? The 7 wood, I think, especially because I get you up to a 5, is probably going to be your next comfortable 180-ish distance club, something that you can pull out regularly, feel comfortable hitting. And then I put you in a 5 for your next longest. So you'll actually be going driver to 5 wood. That's very unconventional. Most people will go driver 3 wood. But what I have also found is that most people don't know how to hit a 3 wood. Right? So they're actually carrying around an extra club for no reason. I think the 5 is a great kind of midpoint for you then, in that you'll probably get a lot more utility out of it. Yes, you will have a bigger gap in terms of between your driver and then your next longest club. But I'm going with the logic of if you're in the 220, 240 range, the likelihood of you comfortably and consistently hitting a 3-wood to get there is relatively low anyway. So let's not optimize for that part of your game. Let's optimize the gaps up from where you are in terms of comfort, right?
Interesting. Do you carry a 5-wood?
I have a 5-wood around I hit it like 3 or 4 times, and it was the one that's like it would launch really high and just go. I don't hit my 3-wood very often. And so maybe I'm introducing a lot of my own personal bias. Like, but if I catch my 3-wood, it goes like 280. So my 3-wood goes really long. It's just, for me, it's so inconsistent when I get that. But my 5-wood, I know it's doing exactly what I want for me every single time.
And these are pretty awesome condition.
Yeah. Yeah. These are 9s out of 10s, which is why they're still on the pricier end. These are not much cheaper than brand new MSRP. So not saving a ton.
And then when it comes to like shafts for these and the hybrids and all that and other stuff too, right? It's like, is it also you're looking for consistent shafts that are the same feel as your irons, and you just want to be consistent with your shafts throughout your entire bag?
Yes. For me personally, I actually got fitted into my 3-wood specifically with its shaft on what performed best. And then I got my driver with its shaft, and I liked how that driver felt so much that when I bought my 5-wood, I just put the same exact shaft as my driver into the 5-wood. So yes, I think, again, shafts are going to be one of the most important things that you can do. I have played the Altas, which is Ping's stock shaft set. They tend to be a little bit light, but it's fantastic in terms of just fitting the overall populace in terms of performance of a more general golfer.
Yeah, for me, I actually don't play the same shafts on all my fairway woods. So my driver is a very, very low spinning, low launch shaft, and they progressively get a little bit more like mid launch. So with my 3-wood as well as my 5-wood, I play more of a mid-launch shaft, whereas with my driver, I play a very low, like super low launch shaft. But I think it just depends more on like what you're looking for, what shot you're looking for, what shot you typically hit. And so it just fits my game and what I typically use my 3 and 5-wood for. So eventually it would get to a point where you know your game well enough that you're able to make those decisions. But most people do like to just use very similar shafts on all their fairway woods.
Final price tags, Charles.
Yes. So I came $7.25 under budget. But the most hardest thing was finding the right 7-wood. And then finding the 2 hybrid sets that matched each other. So like those 3 clubs are the same price as all your irons, but I was able to stay under budget.
I, on the other hand, went for a completely different strategy where didn't put you in any rescues, put you in an unconventional long club setup, one that I think is a little bit more comfortable to play. Spent the most money on the irons. I'm $8.20 over budget. And so for our listeners, the rule is that if Richard decides at any point to buy any of these, I owe him $8.20 because I went over budget. So that is on me. So very different approaches, very different way of looking at how to tackle a bag. But I think interestingly, I would agree with all of Charles's logic as well. So I don't think you can go wrong with either of these bags. It's really just from a both philosophical standpoint of how you treat your game as well as what you're comfortable with that I think really will set you up for what bag will be the most successful for you.
All right, Richard. Well, do you have any other questions after seeing the entire bag setup?
No, I mean, I think I covered, you guys covered most of them as we were going through each club. Cool. And I'm going to make a decision right now.
Yes. Are you ready?
Man, I'm going with Charles's bag.
Yes.
And here are my reasons. In that questionnaire, one of the things I said was like, I wanted to reduce the 3 putts. I think given that I'm probably playing I know I'm playing the wrong putter. I think that the hype around the torque, like 0 torque is legit. And I think that kind of appeals to me. But I think part of it too is just the search funds being forced. Knowing that like right now I need more feedback on my shots, knowing what I'm doing kind of well. And I tried the Titleist T300s before, and it was kind of a coin toss between those and the Mizunos that I have now. But I think I just kind of like the feel of the Mizunos that I played and when I just tested them out. And I think it's the knowing that I can probably grow my game with the Strixons compared to knowing that the Titleist are kind of like the game improvement. And so I wanted to kind of give myself more of a challenge to, just push myself to do better. Honestly, I think the ping, Roy, the pings that you picked for the woods, I do prefer those, but because I can't mix or match and, I have to go with one or the other, I think, that's where those Mavericks, I've played with buddies Mavericks, and like, I could care less for those.
Yeah.
And
fair enough.
I tried Evoke. I think 9 out of 10 shots did not go anywhere near what I thought they would. Like, I know people swear by Evokies and like, I'm sure they're great. I mean, like the best players in golf are using them, but like, I am so far from being able to like handle one of those things. Like it was just, it made me hate golf more than I already hate golf.
All right. So Charles pulls ahead with the early lead, takes one bag. I thought some of his rationalization of wanting to grow with his bag and, if he were to go buy these, be able to really focus on his irons. That was a solid choice. I don't think you can go wrong with the bags, with either bags, but I think with the Strixons, I think those were definitely something that he could grow his game with and play for at least 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway for me was he didn't feel like jumping from the 921 hot metals to T300s was any like sort of like upgrade.
Right.
And so because of that, he ended up going with my bag, even though he liked your fairway woods better. And honestly, I was, like I mentioned in the podcast, I was looking for ping G40 maxes or G440 maxes, which you chose. I just couldn't fit it within my budget, especially with the hybrids.
And just, Richard, if you're listening, I would love to see you go for 5 wood, 7 wood, like I mentioned. That's a crazy thought, I know, to not carry a 3 wood, but also have 2 other woods. But I think for your game, it could do amazing things.
And if I was Richard, I do think I would upgrade to the Strixon irons, but I think I would maybe don't buy the wedges and go with the fairway woods that you had. And that would be kind of like the ultimate Richard bag.
Yeah. Yeah, and the putter, right? Stick with the method. No.
Go with the lab.
Okay, fine. Maybe not the method, although I still think they're really cool. Would I play one? No, but I think they're really cool putters.
And by the way, I think we need to figure out a different penalty for if you go over budget.
Oh, right. Like if Richard, I owe Richard $8 if he decides to buy any of these clubs.
Maybe you should owe me whatever you go over budget.
Oh, okay. Oh, what if for our next bag, our next challenge, you get $8?
No. I just want the $8.
Okay. I'll send you a Venmo after we're done filming.
And also for the listeners, it would be a lot of help if you could go to our socials and vote which bag you think Richard should game, either mine or Roy's. Roy, did we decide how we're going to do this?
Yeah, so let us know in the comments. We're going to post shorts on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. And after 72 hours, the number of comments or whoever's bag has the most comments will win. Special thanks to Richard for dealing with our shenanigans. And that's enough getting off track for this week. May your mulligans be many and your 3 putts be few.